All right, so we have the Cursed Swamp 9-hole cup this week, and I tell you, Playdemic. There's a video you guys can watch. Let's go to YouTube, or you can just go on to Google and put in how to polish a turd. I am just constantly amazed that we have, if you go to Golf Clash Notebook, which is hasn't updated its site since the Winter Major, which was back in like February, March. And we've had one new course that's come out. We have a new course that's coming up for the next tournament. So we've had a couple new courses this year. They've got over 30 courses that are listed. Now, some of those are doubles where they have one name for like the Halloween stuff, but then they're another course. That we have 28 courses, and it seems like we play this Sunshine Glades. We play the same courses over and over and over and over and over. Does that sound like a broken record? That's exactly what it feels like. We're just playing the same stuff over and over again. We have enough holes that if we weren't in a pandemic year where they're just playing tournaments every week off here and there, but we could play different holes on a regular basis. We're just playing the same holes over and over and over again. But that's what we have, and we're going to see what we got here. So let's take a look at it. We got Cursed Swamp. Let me write that down here. Cursed Swamp. And this is the order. So if you use Golf Clash Notebook as a kind of looking at the high def pictures, hole number 1 is going to be Sunshine Glades hole number 1. Hole number 2 is going to be Sunshine Glades hole number 5. Hole number 3 is Sunshine Glades hole number 9. Hole number 4 is Sunshine Glades hole number 8. Hole number 5 is Sunshine Glades hole number 4. Hole number 6 is Sunshine Glades hole number 6. Hole number 7 is Sunshine Glades hole number 2. Hole number 8 is Sunshine Glades hole number 7. And hole number 9 is Sunshine Glades hole number 3. So let's go take a look at these holes. I haven't put together a playlist yet. Part of the deal is that because Golf Clash Notebook hasn't been updating, I know that we've played some of these holes. We've played 4 times already this year, like hole number 1, and I don't. It's the wrong one. Wrong one. So I'm not sure what the new, what other tournaments we played in them that we've played this year, so that I can get the most recent videos that I've shot on these holes. So we'll go through them and just look at some of the different ways that we can play. I'm not really going to focus too much on adjustments as far as like elevation or slight adjustments that we need to make on these holes. Hold on one second, and then we'll start on hole number 1. All right, here we go. Only 3 hours later. All right, hole number 1, which is going to be hole number 1 of Sunshine Glades. Now, there are several different ways that you can go at this hole. My preferred way is to you can do a rough bump right here, and you can use an extra mile. If you've got an upper developed rock, you can use a rock. Ideally, you want to try and use a rock or a QB if you can get your ball up to the point where you can end up in this first cut of the rough right here. Now, the last time we played here, I was doing a adjustment, and I cannot remember exactly what it was. Let me see here if I've got it written down. It's like I was doing like a negative number. I was doing just a very slight adjustment, but if you hit the ball to the left, it takes an irregular bounce and it'll end up way to the left. You'll probably end up down here on the fringe. If you hit the ball to the right, it'll be really close. So it will take a little bit of an irregular bounce if it goes to the left. You can also come here with, you can use an extra mile here. The problem with an extra mile is it's all about ring width. So you're trying to hit here and you're back here. And so if you hit it perfect, it lands where you want it. But if you hit it to the left or to the right, it's 2.1. It's one ring to the left or the right, so it's 2.1 off, and it's very easy to end up either clipping the rough or not catching the rough and hitting the fairway and then ending up over. It took very little adjustment to get it up to the cup. The other way that you can get on this hole is you can bring and more than likely it'll take It takes a couple of backspin where you start off in this area right here. Your ball guide's coming off like this. You want to make sure that your arc, so wherever your bounce is, your second bounce out here, is clear of the sand here in the front, because you'll have to put a little bit of curl on it in order to bring it back towards the cup. Hold on one second. Buster boy. The deal about taking this shot right here is anytime you have to include the word curl in a shot, your chances of it going in the hole are diminished. And we do have a serious look at hole-in-one here, especially with the rough bump. But there is a shot that you can do right here, and you can do this with, when I was taking this direction, I was using a QB and a Kingmaker. A Kingmaker giving me 3 side spin and giving me the distance so that I could get up here with my QB, so that I could, and at 100% accurate club. That's the thing about even this shot right here. If you can use a 100% accurate club, you're one ring off to the left or the right. It's only 1 mile per hour, so it's very easy to end up close to where you started the shot up, even though you hit it great to the left or the right. So you do have a shot from here. And this, I will tell you right now, that this way right here, this is a hole that we absolutely, positively, no matter about it, minimum score, have got to get an eagle. You know, there are some of these par 4s in the game that you have to get an eagle. I mean, there's just no option. The mass majority of people that come to this hole are going to get an eagle. So if you don't get an eagle, you've put yourself in a huge hole. And so you have to get an eagle here. So if you want to guarantee yourself an eagle, there are risks that are involved with this shot. Are there rewards? It gives you a great look at hole-in-one. Can you make a hole-in-one from this way? Absolutely. But you've got less of an opportunity to make a hole-in-one on this side because you have to involve this word curl. So if you want to get up there and give yourself a short chip or a putt for eagle, this side right here is going to net you an eagle, in my opinion, almost every time. Whereas this shot right here, yes, as long as you hit perfect, but if you start hitting greats to the left or right, especially if you hit a 2-ring, then you're in big trouble. If you just cannot get either one of these shots done, you can lay up over here and try and bring it in, but you've got a shot from distance, and that can be tricky. And this green from this angle over here is a little bit tricky to get on. I would stick with option number 1 or option number 2, depending on what your clubs are. When you do this shot with the curl, just stepping back for a second, let's look back at the hole. When you're doing this shot with a lot of curl, I have a buddy named Kyle. He got a hole-in-one on this. I think it was his first hole-in-one ever on a par 4, and he did it with an Apocalypse, and he had max curl on there. And I remember telling him, great shot, don't ever do that again. Because these trees right here, every time I've ever been here and you do a max curl shot, I've clipped these trees. So when I talk about using some curl to bring it around, it's very difficult with at least a 3-side spin ball to get it to go around enough to get back to the cup. You're usually looking at a short pitch or a short chip. Or excuse me, a short chip or a short putt. But if you put max curl on it, you do take a big risk of clipping these trees. So when I talk about curl, you're putting a little bit of curl on it just to try and bring it back around towards the hole. I'm going to go with the rough bump here because I think it's our best opportunity to pick up a hole-in-one on a par 4. And we absolutely have to get eagle, but if we can get a hole-in-one, I'm going to go for that. Hole number 2 is going to be Sunshine Glades, hole number 5. Let's see what this hole is. All right. Yeah, this is a tough par 3, especially if you're playing up in pro. This is a tough par 3. The deal is that in rookie, we have an opportunity in rookie that we don't have in pro, where you can start off right here. And normally in this area right here, I will either bring a Guardian or I'll bring a QB. And a Kingmaker does work best because it gives you can use a Katana from this area, but the QB seems like it works a little bit better as far as like where it puts you out in your club. The thing on this green is like, here's the pin, and when you're rolling towards the back, it's downhill. So here's the pin, and it's rolling. It's all downhill. Even though it looks like it's flatter up here at the top, it does all roll downhill, and it's very easy to end up here in the back. And if you end up in the back, it's super easy to end up in the rough. And if you don't end up in the rough, your whole hope is that you end up on the fringe, because the putt from down here blows like hurricane blow. It sucks. So you don't want to have to take that shot from up there. You really want to have good control of your ball, but the ball tends to roll out a little bit faster. Normally on this hole, I think in the past I usually start the week off with a 10% adjustment, and then I work from there. A couple other ways that you can go out. You got all kinds of options on this hole. You can come from back here. In pro, when I'm playing this on Tour 7 and I catch this hole in a shootout, I usually shoot from back here. I'm 2 rings of separation from the sand out into the fairway. Bounce here. It takes just a little bit of topspin, not a lot. It'll look like you need to put more topspin on, but it tends to roll out, so you'll end up being 5-6 yards, or you can catch the break down here where it really starts to roll down the hill. And you can come at it from this direction right here, and you can bounce over the sand and try and bring it around and get yourself close. You can also start on this side and try and come at it. You can also start way out here and try and bring it around. So you have a lot of options that are out in here. I typically don't like to do shots. This is why one of the things in pro, when you catch this in pro, I don't normally, and the deal with pro is that your transitional line, if you're using a Marlin, a 1-power ball, is usually right in this area. So if you're out here, if you've got a headwind and you're already out your red line and you're trying to pull the wind out, it's hard to do it, so you may end up taking it with your driver. And if you've got a really good driver, let's say you got your QB or you got your rock, your minimum is right here, and so you don't have enough room if you've got tailwind to pull the wind out, so you end up taking it with your wood at max club. So you're either going to be at max wood or at minimum driver, just depending on what ball you bring out. So if you want to take it with your wood and you're playing pro, depending on which way the wind's blowing, you may have to bring out a bigger ball to push your red line forward so that you can give yourself room to work the wind out. But I don't like to take shots like this where I'm starting off out here in the middle, because there's no points of reference. I'd like to triangulate it so that I've got 1 ring up against the sand and 1 ring up against a rough area. But here it's so wide that it's hard to find, it's because what we want to do when we're trying to repeat a shot is like be in the same spot, like same starting spot every time, so that that's not a variable. But when you've got an open area like this, you can have one time where you're here and one time where you're here and one time where you're here and one time where you're here, and they're close. But the deal is that every time you do that, now it changes the end shot. So trying to find some area where you can be consistent. Look at if you're bringing out a bigger ball, looking at like where you are in your ball. So like if you're at +1 or +2, because it'll show you a number. Especially if you are using a bigger ball, it'll show you a number where like it'll show you a +1 or a +10 or whatever it happens to be. And that's telling you how much farther ahead that ball is pushing you than from a 0-power ball. So trying to find some spot where you can triangulate so that you're in the same spot if you want to take it from over here. I don't mind. I actually prefer to come at this hole through this gap as opposed to trying to come through it through the open over here, just because it's hard to find an area over here that you can consistently get to. But that's just me. When I'm playing, I always like to give myself some separation. But I also like to be able to use that separation to try and triangulate a shot so that I can, next time I'm there, I can do the same thing. The way that I'm going to play this is I'm going to bring out, and you can do this with a sniper, an upper developed sniper. It's got to have backspin, or you can do it with a Guardian, where you start off in this area right here, and you're trying to bring it around to the hole. And a lot of that can be where you're using a ball that's got side spin on it, and the more backspin you put on and the more side spin you put on, when the ball hits, it jumps in that direction. So like if you take a shot and you only put like 1 backspin on it and you put on some side spin, when it hits, it's just going to flow. But if you've got a lot of backspin on there, when it hits and it starts, because the backspin and the side spin don't take effect until it touches the ground. So as soon as it touches the ground, it hits, and all that backspin and side spin engage, and it whips the ball in that direction. But I'm going to, in rookie, start off in this area right here and try and bring it around to the cup. And the other thing about this hole is this hole can eat your lunch if you don't hit it perfect every time. It's very easy to get caught up in the sand because the shots coming at it from this direction over here tend to be very close, where you're just on the other side of this when you're coming through. So if you make a mistake and you don't hit it perfect, or you don't set it up right here or adjust for the wind right, it's very easy to end up getting caught in the sand. I'm going to go straight at it and use a little more backspin to try and control it as I get to the cup. Hole number 3 is Sunshine Glades. Hole number 9. What is this hole? Yeah, and this hole right here, I'm telling you, the last time we had this in a tournament, this hole freaking ate my lunch, and this hole is not a hard hole. Like if you want to get an eagle every time, like in one-on-one play, I always play over to this side right here. And I usually try and lay it up like right in this area right here, and it's a long shot. So like if you've got a sniper, you're using this is a big par 5. I would definitely recommend, even though you don't absolutely need to have, on a lot of these par 5s, you don't need to have a 3 power ball. My recommendation is when you're playing par 5, especially in a tournament, respect the fact that you're playing a par 5, because if anything goes wrong, your fault, my fault, nobody's fault, that power 3 ball can save you. That Marlin or that 1 power ball is nice because, you know, you can say, hey, I was a purist, but let me tell you, you get into any kind of trouble at all, and you're going to wish that you had a bigger ball just for the opportunity to save yourself. Because anything over here that if you don't end up in the fairway in this area, you are sunk, even with a power 3 ball. You're going to have to lay up over here and then try and bring it to the cup, because you're not going to be able to make it over to this fairway in order to try and give yourself a short chip. So if you end up in any trouble at all in the sand or in this rough area, you're going to end up having to chip over here. Now, if you're way up, you may be, you know, if you're way up in this area, you may be able to make it over onto this side and at least pull yourself up into here so that you have a fairly short chip if you get in trouble. But this area over here is typically for me when I'm playing one-on-one and I'm not bringing out bigger equipment, and I can play this with a Marlin. It's a little bit more difficult when you've got a headwind, just because of where your red lines are with a lower power ball, but you can play this area over here with a 3 power ball, and it doesn't matter if you have a headwind, tailwind, whatever. You can fairly easily get yourself out into this, even with a lower developed extra mile. It doesn't take a big extra mile. It actually, like if you've got a bigger extra mile and you put too much topspin, it's very easy to roll off into the rough here. I have seen a few people try and get way up to the top, and it's difficult to get way up there and be consistent about it. But the deal is that I think the shot that you're giving yourself and all the effort that you went through and the risk that you went through is not that great of a shot to the cup. Traditionally, what you're going to see most people do during a tournament is come out into this area and they've got one bounce out in this area, and you have several options. You can just lay it up. This gives you a perfect sniper right into the cup. Or you can get way out here by the sand and you've got a nice guardian and you can do a rough bump right here. And this is one of those rough bumps that I like because it's coming at the rough. The way that this rough goes is it's like this, and you're coming from this direction, so you're teeing at the rough. So you've got a nice, you're not trying to hit the rough where you're coming in like this and the rough is going like this, where it's got this, if you hit a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, bam, you've missed the rough and you're in the deep rough, or you've missed the rough entirely and now you're on the fairway. This type of rough right here is much better, especially when we have a wind that's blowing perpendicular just like that. Now the last few tournaments that we've played this, pretty much every tournament we've played this, we've had some kind of tailwind, so we've had some kind of wind that would help us at least get over into one of these areas. In my opinion, where you don't want to end up is in between these two areas. So if you're down here, you've got a nice shot coming in with your sniper. If you get up here, you got a nice shot with a sniper or a guardian or any of your woods to do that rough bump. But when you're in the middle area, you've almost taken the rough bump out so that the rough is going like this, and you're more in line with this rough right here on this side. And so now you're doing that rough shot where you've got a very narrow little window. You have to make absolutely perfect adjustments, and it's super easy to end up in trouble. And so you've kind of taken the rough bump out of the thing because you didn't get far enough out. And what you've done on the shot, just the straight in shot coming towards the cup, is now you're coming at it like this. So you've got to put side spin on it in order to bring it back around to the cup. So if you're going for these shots that are out here, either get really close to the sand, so you're using your guardian, or just lay it up. I mean, this shot out here is easy. You don't have to bring anything special. You want to bring a 3 power ball just so that you can easily get out of this area, because it's still a long shot with a sniper, but bringing a 3 power ball is going to help you out on the drive and help you out on the second shot. Kingmaker's not going to be bad because it will cut the wind down, and if you do find yourself having hit it a little bit too far, it gives you a little bit more side spin options. You can bring a big ball and try and pound it way out here to the front, where you can come at this with your long iron. So from where you're at when you're out in just into this area, you're probably in mid woods. So somewhere like right out in this area right here, if you can get beyond that line, you're going to start getting into your max long iron. And if you're doing the rough bump, it's not a bad deal because you're at the right angle for that rough bump when you're out into this area. One of the things I say this every time this hole comes up in a tournament, what I really want to explore here is if we bring out, and I do remember on the second shot, I don't remember what the elevation, but I know that on the drive, it carries a lot farther down in here than it looks. So if you bring out a 3-power ball, your red line is going to be way out here, and you go, well, I got tons of room. You push it forward against the red line, doing a max overpower shot, and it's like, man, I got tons of room. And you'll end up overshooting it. So it's very easy to overshoot this because it carries, and I remember in the past that we've done at least like a 10% over adjustment when we're adjusting out the wind. But if you're doing overpower here, you're really going to have to shoot that shot a few times to see how it's responding. If you bring out, this is the shot that I really want to practice on this. If you bring out a bigger ball and you pull it over here to the left, and you've got tons of room over here. I mean, we got another, from where we would end up overshooting here to overshooting out here, we got another 30, 40 yards. I mean, we got a ton of area out here of trying to set up where we're coming out into this area right here and trying to utilize this area so that we're doing a max overpower hook shot. Because if you can hit this area right here, you're clear of this. So you've really opened up this fairway area, and it probably would take 2, maybe 3 shots to get your angle right so that you end up coming out and bleeding way up here to the front. And now I remember hitting this shot from the Pro Tees a long time ago, and I cannot remember where I set it up, and that's why I really want to go back and practice this again, where I was able to get myself up in here. And I believe if you can get yourself all the way up to the front, you can actually get yourself in a short iron range, and then we're talking business. So I'm gonna practice whatever tour, and I'm not sure if they'll put the Sunshine Glades so that we can practice it in the rookie tees. I think the only way we're going to be able to practice it is from the Pro Tees, but trying to find an area here where we can do a max overpower hook shot to see if we can get ourselves all the way to the front. If I get this hole, that is what I'm going to be practicing all week, is because obviously we've played this hole a billion times, so we've played all of these holes a billion times because of how much they put them in tournaments. But coming out here and at least exploring the max overpower hook shot to see if you can get all the way up to the front, I think it will really increase our odds of getting an Albie on this hole. This is an Albiable hole, and we give ourselves great looks at it from over here, but just dialing it in and getting that shot down, ending up in a very consistent area is key. Hole number 4, Sunshine Glades, hole number 8. What is this? Par 3. And we have several ways that we can go with this. I prefer if we have known winds. So there is a great rough bump that's here that will give you an excellent chance at a hole-in-one. And there is definitely an elevation adjustment that we need to be doing here. And I cannot remember, let's see if I have it on. Let's see if we played this in this particular tournament. And we didn't play that hole on this one. I cannot remember what it is, but it seems like it was somewhere in the 10% range. But there is a very nice rough bump that we can do here. Now, when I'm playing one-on-one, it depends. If the wind is blowing like this, or if the wind is blowing like this, then I will typically always do the rough bump. Because if I make a bad wind adjustment, I just didn't pull it enough to the left, or I just didn't pull it enough to the right. But when it pushes it over to where the wind's going to push it, I'm still in the rough. So when I'm playing one-on-one, if I'm on here and I have these types of side winds, I almost always play the rough bump. And the reason I do that is because on the side wind, you're going to have a secondary wind effect is going to affect every consecutive bounce that's on here. And so you're going to end up getting pushed off of the hole. But if you do a rough bump and you get the wind pull right on the first bounce, from that point forward, really you're not getting a lot of secondary wind effect, and the ball will tend to roll truer towards the cup. If I have a headwind or a tailwind, I typically in tournament or in one-on-one play do not play this spot, because the headwind here will knock the ball down, and you'll end up either in the sand, and if you got a tailwind, it will carry the ball a little bit farther, and you'll end up very easily clipping the fairway, and then you'll go for a ride and end up back here in the back. So typically in one-on-one play, I will play the bounce over shot from here. And once again, if you watch my stuff on a regular basis, I'm always a big fan of leaving yourself at least 2 rings of separation. So I'm not going to push the issue against any of these transitional surfaces. I'm going to leave myself a couple rings. It's very easy to triangulate yourself when you do that, because you can leave a couple rings here and you can leave a couple rings in the front so that you're ending up in the same spot every time. It takes very little maneuver to get yourself to the cup. Very little maneuver. Just a little teeny bit of topspin. It's not a lot. I'll have to go back and watch some video on it and see what my options are as far as going at this, but it takes very little adjustment in order to get over to the hole. This is a very hole-in-oneable hole, depending on which way the wind is blowing. And I think that it may be this tournament. I think they were threatening that it was going to be the last tournament where they were going to have varying winds between rounds. So like in the qualifying round, we were going to have one set of winds, and then when the opening round came, we were going to have a different set of wind, and when the weekend round came, we we're going to have a different set of wind. And I love that. I'm okay with that. I think the people that are going to have the hardest time with it are people who their only hope is that they can copy somebody else's shot and they can't think for themselves. And that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that, like, being able to understand how the game works and understand how to make those adjustments, and so you recognize that, hey, I'm going up against a headwind. I may have to, we were doing a 10% adjustment. I may have to make a bigger adjustment because we're going up against headwind. Because now it's not just that I have to make an elevation adjustment. I have a headwind that's laying the ball down. So the wind's pushing up against the ball in its flight time, and it's not going to carry as far as it would if I had a tailwind or if I had a side wind. If I have a tailwind, the ball's going to get carried a little bit more. Anybody watch Tin Cup? You know, he's going for that one shot and he takes 27 shots to get up there, and he gets a little bit of headwind on it and it laid the ball down and he ended up missing. And then the last shot, he gets a little teeny bit of tailwind, and it just lofted the ball just enough that it carried that extra little distance that he was looking for. So recognizing that if you have a tailwind or a headwind, that you may have to make a different adjustment, and being able to kind of think on your feet when you're doing it, because not everybody has 27 accounts that they can go out there and see what the wind is and practice and make those micro adjustments. I think what you're going to find is a lot of people are going to be playing later on. So instead of just getting on Thursday and immediately playing, they're going to wait until either Thursday night or Friday, and they're going to let some of the big boys that stream go out there and take their shots so they can see what the wind directions are. If you're in a clan and you have a lot of friends in the clan that have second accounts, practice accounts, you know, and you don't have a practice account, letting them go out there and shoot around with their practice account so that they can see which way the wind's blowing, so that you can make adjustments for that wind. So I think a lot of players are not going to be able to handle that. And so if you're one of those players that you can make those adjustments for the wind, it's once again, it's going to benefit the people who are students of the game. So I know a lot of people that are like, oh man, this is all BS. All these guys are doing is copying shots and stuff. There's a lot of people that having varying winds, it's going to hurt them bad. And they're going to find out that maybe they shouldn't have bitched about having steady wind where you could get the deal. But for me, I think it's going to be awesome. But we definitely do have a serious hole-in-one shot on here, especially if we've got wind where we can use that rough bump, and we can make the adjustments for that shot. All right, that was hole number 4. Hole number 5, Sunshine Glades, hole number 4. Let's see what we got here. All right, first let's talk one-on-one. So in one-on-one, this is one of the very few holes, and I can only think of one other hole, and I don't know what it is, but this is one of the very few holes that I take a sniper shot. I take a sniper to right here. No fuss, no muss. 100% guaranteed that I'm going to end up in this area, and I take a sniper right to the cup, and I do a plus 10% to the cup. And this is a super, super tough cup to get it into, because you can split this green in half. Okay, here's the pin. On this side, it's flat. Got perfect, nice shot to the cup. On this side over here, it's got moguls all over it. Okay, and so we've got a hill and a valley, and a hill and a valley, and a hill and a valley. So if you're hitting it straight and you're going like this, you're going to hit a peak, and then you're going to hit it on the side hill, and it's going to make the ball want to do this stuff to weave and bob through the thing, and it is tough. It's not that you can't pick up the eagle here going for any shot from distance, but coming at the hole from this side, anywhere on this side right here, is super difficult. I mean, you see people get eagles on here, so I mean, it's not like it's impossible, but it's not, it's tough. So one of the ways that I see a lot of people go at it, so like this is option number one, and this in one-on-one, this is the only way that I play this hole. Number one, you can play this hole with a white ball, a marlin, you can play it with any ball. But if you're playing, I usually play one-on-one with a marlin, so like this shot right here is perfect. I can bring out a marlin, hit it right there, sniper to the cup, no fuss, no muss. And I get a lot of opponents that epic fail because where they're trying to get is right here. And they end up getting in trouble here or here. They hit the rough, they don't hit it perfect, they end up in the sand, they end up in the rough, or they end up right out here and they're behind the trees and they end up getting caught up in these trees. But even if they make it over to here, they're coming at the green on this side, which means that they've got to contend with all these moguls. And so it's a difficult shot. Now there was a shot, and the last time we had this hole in a tournament, you can kind of see the little indentations that are on here. You can see the little shadow lines where there's just a bunch of moguls there. There was a shot that you could bring a bigger ball and a big topper starting off on this spot right here, trying to get one bounce here, two bounces here, go across, clip the rough, and roll off towards the cup. And it was a great, I mean, but here's the thing, it was a great shot. But if you're using a big topper, and let's say probably for the average player that's out there, their big topper somewhere in the 2.4 or worse per ring, okay? When you hit a perfect shot, it hits here, it hits the rough, and it rolls off towards the green. That's achievable. But if you hit it one ring great to the left or the right, that's 2.4 miles per hour to the left or the right. So equate it out to, if you're using your quarterback, that's 2.5 rings. So when you hit that one ring great to the left with a big topper, that's like pulling your quarterback 2.5 rings. So next time you're on a hole and you make an adjustment and you're like all perfect and you've got your quarterback, pull it another 2.5 rings and see how far off it ends. So if you don't hit this shot perfect with your big topper, you're going to easily find yourself either clipping the rough, and more than likely, I'd say better than 50%, you're going to end up in the drink. Now you could get lucky and end up getting caught up in the rough or caught up in here, but more than likely you're going to end up in the drink. If you don't end up in the drink, it's very easy to get up there, get over to this side. You still got a shot, get over there to this side, make your putt, get your birdie, and move on. But it's a dangerous way to go at eagle, unless you can hit perfect and you can hit the spot. Now for a long time, this was the way to go, and I did this for a long time, and then it seemed like 2 or 3 times ago that this was in a tournament, this hole was in a tournament, me and a teammate of mine, Dez, came out here and we were hitting like perfect shot, power 5 balls, and ending up like totally blowing it, like making good wind adjustments and like totally blowing it, and it's like it went away. But somebody, the last time this was in a tournament, said that this shot was back in play again. But I've got so shy because I think I burned like 5 power 5 balls on perfect shots that I'm like unwilling to do it. So the other way that you can go at this hole, and this takes, you can do it with a power 3 ball with overpower, but the whole deal is that this shot has to be so precise that anytime you have to use overpower, it's problematic. So if you can bring out a power 4 or a power 5 ball and push your red line so that you have a window on this side, and this is going to be an extra mile or like an APOC 5, something that's got some distance to it. It's going to have to be either in the extra mile distance or more, which would be your APOC 5. So you can get yourself a little bit of a window on this side. Now, obviously, if you bring out a 5 power ball, you're going to push that red line forward and you're going to give yourself an even better window. And having a bigger window over here gives you some flexibility. And what you're trying to do is come at it so that you can get one bounce here and then bleed yourself through and just try and end up right here. It doesn't matter necessarily if you get on, as long as you're in the clear right here. I find myself a lot where I take this shot and it always seems like it's a dial it in as the week goes on, where I overshoot and I end up in the rough over here. And then and if you take some topspin off in order to keep it from doing that, you end up getting caught up in the rough on this side. So it's almost like it doesn't like the in-between. I'm thinking maybe finding it so that you're at the spot where you're getting caught up right here, and then you just rub up against the nubs and overpower. So it's not necessarily a topspin thing, but you're just putting that little teeny bit of overpower on there so that it will push it out. Because I really don't want to get on the green here, because you're usually caught up on the mogul side on the green. I would rather just end up in the fairway on this side right here so that I can just chip it over. That was the cool thing about taking this shot, was if you made this shot and you came in on the flat part of the green. And so whatever putt or whatever chip you had, it was on a flat part of the green, as opposed to being on this side of the green where you got a lot of moguls. This is a great hole, and I think that this is another one of those holes, just like the hole number 1, that's going to be a par 4 that we're going to need to figure out a way to get an eagle. Now, there's going to be less people that get eagle on this hole than on hole number 1. But this is going to be a hole, if you want to be towards the top of the charts, you're going to have to get the eagle on this hole every time. Now, yes, you could get a birdie on this hole and then you could turn around and get a hole-in-one on something to make up for it. But if you really want to be towards the top, you're going to have to get an eagle on this hole every time we play it. And unfortunately, what it's going to take to give you the best opportunity is a bigger ball and a club that hits the farthest that you can possibly hit with the most amount of topspin. So if you've got an upper developed extra mile, an extra mile 9, you can afford to hit back here with a 4 power ball, because you've got a lot more topspin. If you've got an extra mile 7, 6, something that doesn't have its topspin yet, you're going to have to probably bring out a 5 power ball in order to push your red line forward, so that you don't have to have as much topspin in order to clear the gap. Your only other option is to use overpower, and there's 2 ways that you can fail in this hole. You can hit it to the left and end up in the sand, or you can hit it to the right and end up in the drink, and that means you're taking that shot again. So I'm trying to come out here and not use overpower. Try and bring out the appropriate ball for the club that you have. All right, that was hole number 4. Hole number 6, Sunshine Glades, hole number 6. And this is also hole number 6 of the Cursed Swamp. Lots of different ways that you can play this hole as well. So what you can do, let's talk one-on-one. And one-on-one, I always lay up right here. And here's the reason because we're playing this from the pro tee. So if you're playing this in pro, I always lay up right there. And the reason I always lay up right there in pro is because I'm bringing out a marlin ball, and I don't have to do any overpower. You can take this with a QB or rock, extra mile, whatever. Any driver will get you over there. You don't even necessarily have to get all the way up in the front. You want to get as far as you can, but you don't have to take any risk. So like if you're like almost rolling in the rough, take a little bit off. You don't have to be that close. Okay, but usually in one-on-one, I get this in T7. I'm playing from the front tee or from the middle tees, and I'm going to lay it up right here, and then it brings you a sniper straight into the cup. If you can get a little bit closer to the rough and you pick up a lot of distance on the drive, and you bring out a bigger ball, it affords you a rough bump right here where you can do a rough bump straight to the cup, and you can use a sniper or guardian. You've got lots of different options. If you're finding yourself a little short, even with like a 2 or 3 power ball, you can bring out a guardian. That'll give you a little bit more distance and try and pull you up here so that you can do the rough bump to the cup. The other way that you can come at this hole is you can come over into this area where you're trying to bring your ball forward, getting out into here, and you've got a long iron, and or depending on where you can get out here, if you can get way out there, you can get yourself into potential short iron range, just depending on what ball you brought and what short irons you have in your bag. But you will find yourself with a long iron shot here. So we got a wood, we got a long iron. The deal with this shot over here is if you find yourself in trouble along the front, you can recover. So especially if you've got a Nirvana in your bag, you can do a bounce here and you can bounce over and you can recover. If you find yourself in trouble over here, you're SOL. Okay? Same thing down here. If you find yourself overshooting this, depending on what recovery clubs you have in your bag, you could find yourself in a spot of bother. And if I was down here and I found myself where I couldn't reach out into this area with my Nirvana, I would probably try and come out into here to try and bring it over so that I'm on the green side with my recovery chip. So shot number one, shot number two, and shot number two, you're going to have to bring out a bigger ball. I'm not sure when you're playing pro, you'll definitely have to bring out a bigger ball in order to get out into this area. And I think that most of the people that play pro, if they're really trying to go for it, this is the shot that they're going to be taking. But the easy peasy shot that you can do here is just come out here, you can bring a Marlin, and you can go right at it. Any driver to here, sniper to the cup. In rookie, if we bring out a bigger ball, what we can do is we can push our red line forward to the point where we can get our red line out here, and we can have one bounce, two bounce, and try and end up in this area, and now we've got a serious short iron shot to the cup. Now if you've got lower developed clubs and you like to use a Kingfisher, and I love Kingfishers, I think they're like, especially if you got lower developed clubs, a lot of people, you know, everybody talks about certain clubs in the game, but a Kingfisher, while you look at it and you go, well, it doesn't have a lot, what it does have is a lot of accuracy and it has a lot of ball guide. And when you have lower developed accounts, what you're looking for is ball guide, accuracy. And you can work around some of the other stuff. But one of the things on this particular hole is if you've got lower developed stuff, you can find yourself out here into the range where you can get into your Kingfisher pretty easy. But the Kingfisher doesn't quite have distance, and you'll find yourself in between clubs. And what a Kingfisher has is backspin, but what it doesn't have is topspin, and you'll find yourself where you're in a spot where in order to make the shot with the Kingfisher, you'd have to put topspin on it, and you don't have any. So where your red line is at, you'll find yourself having to use your long iron to take that shot. And so if you have a Kingfisher in your bag and that's your driver, or excuse me, your short iron, you may want to switch on this particular hole to a runner, because that's something that you'll get when you've got lower developed stuff, and it's not as good as a Kingfisher in those areas, but it gives you what you need to get there. And you'll also want to make sure that your secondary club, your long iron, is a Saturn, so it's got lots of backspin. So if you're in that in-between line and you have to use your long iron, you can use your long iron because it has lots of backspin. You still may not have a serious shot at getting it in the hole, but at least you won't be 5 miles away from it. If you've got an upper developed Hornet, the Hornet's going to work great here. And you can do a rough bump from this side over here, a pretty short rough bump, or you can try and bring it to the cup. There is an adjustment that we need to make on this, and I don't know what it is. I don't really like starting the week off, and that's why one of the things about having varying winds I think is going to be great for somebody like me, because I don't normally try and start the week off with a whole bunch of pre-expectations as far as like what my adjustments are going to be, because those adjustments from the last tournament may have been for a wind that's blowing like this, and now we have a wind that's blowing like this, and those adjustments may not be the same. So I don't like to go into it going, well, that's what we did last time and it worked, and then sticking with that for the whole damn week, when I can take this shot right here and go, wow, I didn't pull off enough wind, I need to add some on, or wow, that looked pretty good, you know. And so I can just figure out by taking some shots what the course needs me to do in order to get into the cup. Lots of different ways you can play this hole. I'm going to go for this shot over here. If you're in rookie, I'm going for this shot because I want to take that short iron to the cup. Anytime you can get yourself in a short iron range, it's a plus. But if you're playing from the pro tees, bringing out a big enough ball so that you can get yourself to the other side over here and you got a long iron in, this is also going to be one of those things where you have to look at the wind direction. So like I say right now, like no matter what, I'm playing this shot right here because I want to get into my short iron range. Well, what if the wind's blowing like this? So if the wind's blowing like this, when I do my drive, I'm hitting up against the side wind. But if I can get my ball out into this area, now my shot to the cup, and this is the shot that counts, is with a pure tailwind, I may change my religion. If the wind's blowing like this, then that benefits this shot right here because now I'm taking that short iron shot with pure tailwind. What happens if the wind's blowing like this and it's blowing straight down the middle? You know, laying it up out into here or laying it up, you know, now you can kind of pick your poison. So if you do this shot where you're just laying it up right here, it's actually going to benefit you. You can bring out a lower power ball, you can bring out lower stuff, and then you've got a nice shot going through. But so if you're seeing in the tournament where the winds are varying This is one of the things about if they have varying winds from one round to the next. One round, let's say in the qualifying round, the wind was blowing like this. Hey, this short iron shot works great. And then in the next round, the wind's blowing like this. Okay, hey, bring out a little bit bigger ball and trying to hit it out into this area right here so I've got the wind behind me could be beneficial. So if we're going to have varying winds, be cognizant of which, knowing like all of these different ways that you can come at the hole are super important, because now you can start to use the wind to your advantage. That was hole number 6. Hole number 7, Sunshine Glades. Hole number 2, Dos. All right. The giraffe hole. I think we've had this hole like 57 times this year. This has got to be at least the 4th time we've played this hole. It has got to be. I mean, we've played this hole so many times this year, it's just unbelievable. And this is hole number 3, Sunshine Glades hole number 2. And I was bringing, what I normally bring on this hole is a sniper and a marlin, and I do the rough bump. Now I'm at minimum club, and so I'm doing 1.3 per ring. And this hole I'm definitely doing, I remember this hole. I played this hole a ton of times. I'm doing a 10% wind adjustment to the cup, going right at the flagpole. It takes very little topspin, like 2.5, 2.25, somewhere in there. It doesn't take a lot, and you want to feed it right up to the cup. You can be just like right in front of it. I don't want to necessarily have my ball guide so that it's going through the cup. I want to be right there at it, but it takes very little adjustment doing the rough bump here. If you don't like doing the rough bump, you've got 2 other options. You can bounce off of the island, bounce off of this fairway area, and this is the giraffe hole, by the way, and bring it over to the cup, or you can bring out a guardian, and you can still use a marlin. You can bring out a guardian, and you can start on this right here, and you can backspin it right to the cup. If you ever have a single problem on this hole, and you just want to get your birdie and go home, bring out a guardian, and you can backspin it right to the cup. There is a little bit of risk involved with going from this side, because if you get it wrong, if you're too close, and this is one of those areas that I would definitely, if my buddy Dale Appleby's watching, I will tell you, I always give myself 2 rings of separation. And if you're in an area like this right here, it's very easy to give yourself 2 rings of separation, and it's very easy to set it up so that every time you're in the same spot. That way you can try and dial the shot in. But the rough bump here is definitely a money shot. And this hole right here, we have, I think all 3 of the par 3s we've got the first par 3 is going to be the most difficult. I haven't had a lot of success. I've gotten holes in one on it, but it's not one of those holes that I can think back on where I've gotten a lot of hole-in-ones. But this hole right here, I've gotten a lot of hole-in-ones on. So of the par 3s, this is, in my opinion, probably going to be our best opportunity. And the second one's going to be our second best. And part of the reason is we got rough bumps that we can do on both of them. And we don't have to bring out big stuff on these. It's one of the things about if you play these, especially if you're playing Tour 7. I play Tour 7 with a marlin ball. And where the marlin ball, sometimes the marlin ball hurts me when I'm out on the course, but it never hurts me when we're in the shootouts, because all of the shootouts are set up for lower power balls. Hole number 8 is Sunshine Glades. Hole number 7, the duck hole. All right. So in one-on-one, I always shoot to right here, and then I bring it home. And I can't remember what the adjustment is, but I definitely do a plus adjustment here. Plus 10, plus 20. I mean, there is an adjustment that needs to be done here. And I have picked up a lot of eagles taking this shot from over here, although it is a difficult shot from over there to get into the cup, just because this is another one of those holes that the green looks like it's flat, but it isn't flat. Look at all of the little indentations over here and all those little shadow marks. So when you're coming in at it from this angle right here, you're going right through all of these moguls, and so there's a lot of movement. And you got to find a spot when you're setting it up so you got one bounce on a flat area and then you're bouncing over the moguls. That's the way I usually try and approach it when I'm coming at it from that side. But in one-on-one, that's always how I play it. Because in one-on-one, the whole goal is fairway to green, fairway to green. And the minimum score here is birdie. What are we trying to get? Eagle. And this is definitely a hole that we can get an eagle on. It's the duck hole. And we can get an eagle on this hole, but it can also eat your lunch. I think in rookie, and even in pro, in pro, you're probably going to have to do an overpower deal, and you're going to end up down here in the skinnier part. But in rookie, you can bring out a power 5 ball with your extra mile, and you can try and get up here into this wider area and try and bring it. Now here's the scary, and I'll say it, the scary ass part about this shot. This is the area you're trying to hit to right here. And so you've got to bring it through this gap. You've got to cover this angle. And so you're going to have to put some curl on it. And it's very easy to end up, and I've had this shot where everything was perfect and you end up in the drink right here in the front. And that is no bueno. So if you hit anything to the left here, you take a big risk of ending up into the drink. If you hit anything to the right, you're usually pretty good. You'll either end up in the sand or you'll end up here in the rough or the sand. But the goal is just trying to bring the ball around the bend so that you're hitting in here and you're just feeding it through the throat and getting up to the green. And this is one of those holes that for me, it's always been hit or miss. Like there's times when I can't miss this hole, and then there's times where if I went out there and just threw the ball into the water, I'd probably have a better shot. Because this hole, this hole can definitely eat your lunch. But it is a hole that we definitely want to try and get an eagle on, and we can get an eagle on if we do this shot right here. The last few times we played here, we've had this type of wind. So if we end up on this hole and they have varying winds and we end up with a headwind, it's going to be a lot more difficult because then we're going to have to use some overpower on it. One of the benefits of bringing out a 5 power ball is that you can try and take this shot without doing any overpower because the landing area down here is super narrow. And the only club that you're going to be able to get up in there with is going to be like an extra mile, an upper developed extra mile, or an APOC. And so you're dealing with clubs, unless you're dealing with a way up APOC, you're dealing with clubs that are in the 2.1, 1.7 per ring range. So you hit a great to the left or the right, and you're either in the rough or you're in the sand. You don't have that wide of an area. And typically, if you hit it to the left, you're the best, in my opinion, the best result that you can have when you hit it to the left, unless you put a lot of curl on it, is that you hit the rough right here. Because if it hits the fairway, it's very easy, like I said, to end up in this drink. And I usually try and leave myself a little bit more room on the right, because if I hit a great to the right, I want to be able to hit a perfect or a great to the right and try and bring it through the throat. And if I hit a great to the left, I'm not too upset when I end up in the rough down here on a great to the left, because once again, I've ended up in the drink up here and I don't like that. But we definitely have a shot here. If you don't like those and you don't have any bigger balls, no sweat. Hit it right here, bring it into the cup. I've tried several times to see if there's like a max overpower hook shot that we can do from the tee box where we can try and bring the ball like up into this area so that we just have a short chip coming in. And I haven't been able to get it to work. I've tagged these trees several times and I've ended up in trouble out here, or I've ended up in trouble right here, and and when I have gotten out into this area, I've actually been behind the trees and I've actually hampered my next shot to get in, because now I've got to try and curl it around the trees in order to get up onto the green just to recover and get my birdie. I suppose if you wanted to get on the right-hand side of those moguls and have a straighter shot coming in, you could bring out, because from out here, you're talking grizzly. You may be able to lay it up right here. I think if you laid it up out here, even with a long wood coming through, you may be able to just lay it up right here and come in with a wood. That might be a shot if you've got some lower developed stuff and you wanted to try out your woods and you want to be on because the moguls are pretty much on this side. If you wanted to get over on the right-hand side where it's pretty flat on the green, you could try laying it up out in one of these areas and see what it looks like. But I think most people are going to try and go for it if they have the ball inventory and try and hit right here and go onto the green. Another hole, all 3 of the par 4s in this are makeable. I think 2 of them are, one of them is an absolute guaranteed must have to make. The second one, I think we have a really serious opportunity and we've got to try and capitalize on it. And of the par 4s, this is going to be the hardest, but we really want to strive to get eagles on all 3 of the par 4s. For my game, you can always tell when I'm on my game, and most of the tournaments that I've won not by getting hole-in-ones and not by getting albies, but I've gotten most of my wins because I try and make my money on the par 4s. When I'm on game and I'm getting eagles on all the par 4s, it's hard to beat somebody when they go out there, and if the minimum score on a course is -12 and you put in all 3 of the par 4s and you're shooting -15, and that's your starting spot, And anything else that you pick up is just a bonus. That's it. You're starting to get into the tough range to beat. And with hole number 1 in this, we're looking at minus 13 as the minimum. So we really want to focus our efforts on these par 4s, and we do have some par 3s that are very, very makeable. Hole number 9 is going to be Sunshine Glades, hole number 3. And this hole right here, I tried to do a shot where I did a max overpower hook shot, because the last time we had this in a tournament, I was like, what if we could get out into this area right here? Because if we can get out into that area right there, you know, if you could get, I shot a shot where I just shot it straight out here, and you're so far out that I couldn't get around. I think I had to bounce off of this and bring it over in order to get myself back over. But the only way that you're going to be able to do anything from this side right here is if you can get it to go around the bend. And obviously the farther you can get it to go around the bend, you may be able to open up a T rough bump where you're in this area and you're rough bumping it off of a T, and you got a perfect rough bump. Because the rough bump that's from out here is on the curve, and so you'll find yourself having to hit the rough bump along this side, as opposed to getting it up here where you've got a little bit more maneuverability. The bad thing about hitting it here is you hit it great to the left, you're in the rough, deep rough, you hit it great to the right, you miss the rough entirely. Seems like I tried to do a max overpower hook shot, and I think these trees right here were in my way. When I tried to come around the bend to do the max overpower hook shot, I think I clipped one of these trees right here, and I ended up in big trouble. I'm not sure if you were able to do it from the pro, but I know from the expert tees, the last time that this was in a tournament, they were actually hitting with a big power ball. They were actually landing over here. I think they were getting up towards the front, bounce number 1, bounce number 2. They may have been clipping the rough, or they may have been coming on the other side, and they were just like breathing it right up to the cup. Like super easy albie. So if you're playing an expert and you don't get an albie on this, you're going to be behind the curve. I'm not sure if that was possible in pro. And I'm really thinking that you're probably going to have tailwind to make that happen, even in expert. So in expert, you're definitely going to have head or tailwind in order to make that happen. So if they have varying winds and we get any kind of headwind or any kind of pure side wind where you don't have anything helping you, this shot may be completely out of the works. But in rookie, this shot is completely out of the works. I tried it. And I tried just to get over to this spot where I like brought out a big power ball, and I was here, and I was like trying to see if I could get a big enough bounce just to get over and clip the rough and bleed on, and I was like way short. way short. So normally in rookie, what we're going to do is start in this area right here, your ball guides, and you got a couple options. Your ball guides are going to go like this. Option number 1 is to try and skirt right along this rough area, so that sand area. So the closer you are to the sand, the more, like if you look at the way that the rough is here, the closer you are to the sand when you're coming in towards the green, the more you've opened up the rough bump. And obviously the closer you can get, the more you're trying to get the rough bump where you're on this perpendicular, as opposed to if you get out in here and you want to do the rough bump, you're going to be hitting the rough in this direction, where you're on this right here and you're hitting the rough. So the rough is only this wide, and it's a narrower shot. You've got to make an absolute perfect adjustment, and you have to hit the ball perfect. I've never really been a fan of these types of rough bumps, and I've tried it on this hole, and it's, in my opinion, it's dangerous as hell. But I know that there's a lot of people that have success with it. You can also, if you get out here into this spot, you can just bring it up to the cup and avoid the rough, and try and get as close up here as you can to it. I love the shot trying to get out here into the trees to try and come at the hole, because it affords you, this rough is not in play. And so you've got a straight in shot to the cup. The problem with the cup is here's the flagpole, and here's the green, and there's a ridge that runs right along here. So this angle from where I'm talking about underneath the trees runs straight at that, excuse me, if I can draw a straight freaking line, runs straight out that ridge. So if you're a little teeny bit, and this doesn't have anything to do with about hitting great to the left or the right, this has to do with just the drop of the ball. So as the ball is rolling towards the cup, it hits that hill and it breaks to the left, and it'll just weave off the cup. And if you hit it if you set it up just a little bit trying to compensate for that break and it's a little bit too far to the right, it'll break through it'll run through the break. So speed is super important here, because you want to, if you're trying to pick up the break to float it into the cup, then you've got to have your speed right. If you're trying to just power it through the break and just trying to get to the cup, you got to have your speed right so it doesn't just bounce off the flagpole. So I've had a lot of success on this hole in one-on-one, but for whatever reason in tournaments, it just doesn't seem like, I think I've gotten maybe one, maybe two albies on this hole. But I know in one-on-one play, I've had a lot of success on it. But typically in one-on-one play, I'm out into this area right here. In tournament play, I usually take this with a rock or a QB, Kingmaker, and I set it up so that I am basically in the center of this, about 5 rings off all the way around, and my ball guide's going off like this, and I put on max curl. With a QB, you can do it, you know, you don't have to put on all the topspin. You can put on like 4.5 max curl. And it's a blind setup shot is what it is. So I'm setting the ball up. I know if I'm this many rings off of this and I put on max curl, it's just going to bring me around. And it's going to put me right in those shadows and give me a straight shot into the cup. So you have a lot of options that you can do here. I know that more and more people are playing it from this spot right here because it does give you, and it just depends on what ball and what clubs you have. So if you're bringing out a ball that doesn't have a lot of side spin and you don't have an inventory that has a lot of side spin, trying to get more out here so that you're opening up the gap up here so that you have a straighter in shot to the green is preferential. We do have an albie shot on this hole. Like I said, I've gotten a lot of albies on this hole, but I haven't gotten as many as I would like to have gotten in tournaments. That's for damn sure. But we do have some opportunities. So just thinking about the holes, hole number 1, we got that. We got to get an eagle on this. So like when we talk about minimum score, I think minimum score is going to be minus 13 just because of this hole. But I'm seeing 2 of the par 3s that are super hole-in-oneable. Let's not even talk about the par 5s. And the par 5s, I think there are albie opportunities on all 3 of the par 5s, just depending on where we can put our ball. I think we have great albie opportunities on all 3 of those holes. There's 2 of the par 3s that are extremely hole-in-oneable, and the other 2 par 4s. So, I mean, when we talk about like what could be possible, I think all 3 of the par 4s are possible, and I think a couple of the par 3s, and let's just say you got an albie around, there's a lot of opportunities for us to pick up shots here. So this is going to be one of those wild-ass tournaments where getting a minus 30 in some brackets may get you a win, and in some brackets it may get you a 10th. Okay, so I think it's really gonna depend on bracket. But as far as like minimum score, we have to be thinking of we're at minus 13 as an absolute minimum, and we've got to really pick up, I would say, 3 shots on a side. So we really want to be looking at minus 16 per side, minus 32, minus 30, minus 32 to put ourselves into consideration for a banner. I think if you shoot a minus 32 and you don't get a banner, you're in a really good bracket. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we want to be in good brackets. We want the competition. We want to be up there at the top, and we shot the minus 31 and it's tight. And we're stressing for a day and a half trying to see if we win, or, you know, like, am I going to end up getting a banner? Am I going to end up in 4th? I mean, I know a lot of people bitch about how the scores are at the top, but the people that are at the top are really putting in the effort to get those shots and drop those shots and really be students of the game. And if you want to be up towards the top, I mean, I'm a good player. I've played this game for a long time. I've won a lot of tournaments. But I can tell you that if I go out there and don't practice, I could still have great rounds, but to be able to put together the rounds that I need in the weekend round in order to win the tournament, it's very unlikely. Now, I could get out there and get some luck on my side. I've played these holes enough that I know the holes, and I could go out there with a Marlin and just play them and just do my thing and just have some fun and end up getting some shots to drop and end up having a great round. But if I really want to put myself in contention, you're going to have to put in the effort in order to, you got to shoot the minus 13, and you got to think, I got to pick up 3 on a side. So for my money, the easiest 2 places to pick up 2 of those 3 is on the other 2 par 4s. So that means I've got 2 par 3s, and I've got 3 par 5s that I could potentially get an albie on. I got 5 other holes, and I just need to pick up one of those 5. And that's why I said earlier that my whole game has always been predicated on like getting eagles on par fours, because if you can get the eagles on the par fours, the other shots become winning shots instead of the other shots just keeping you up with the Joneses. So this week I'm going to be focused a lot on, and I'm not going to play a lot this week. I'm going to play this tournament just because it's a quick and easy tournament. I know next week we've got a tournament that's got all brand new holes, and I will try and catch some of those holes so I can post some video for you guys and just try and have fun. I'm still kind of in the relaxing mode. We're almost towards the end of the season here where we're wrapping up. We have some more jobs, but our weather is getting to the point where we're trying to maximize the good weather that we have. And then once we get into the winter months where I can't go do my work, then I'm going to start getting back into it. But I just wanted to put something out for you on this one. I'm really disappointed that we're playing Sunshine Glades again. I think there's enough holes in Golf Clash. They've got enough different courses that are out there that I don't understand why we're having to play the same holes over and over and over again. There's got to be at least 28 different courses that are out there. And in a normal year, that would mean that we could play different holes every single tournament week for the whole year. And then they wouldn't get old. And I know that some of these holes we've already played 4 times this year, and I just don't understand why Golf Clash continues to just keep rehashing the same holes over and over and over again. But maybe we'll have varying winds, and that'll give us a little bit of difference and a little bit more separation from the crowd. I think a lot of people have been bitching that they want variable winds, and now that they're going to have them, they're going to fully understand what that means, and they're going to be unhappy with their choice. Like, it's going to be one of those things that watch out what you wish for. But I think for most of you, you're going to be fine. I think that people who understand how the wind ring method works and how to make those adjustments for wind, it's not going to affect them that much. But for those people that are already their eyeball wind adjusters and they don't understand how that stuff works, it's gonna make it a lot tougher for them. All right, that was the kind of a basic walkthrough for Cursed Swamp, the 9-hole cup, and hopefully everybody has a great week and have fun. Thanks for watching. Maybe.